Hey, this is Tom, and as always, don't click nothing, don't smash nothing, and don't buy nothing. Now, the only thing I ask of you is just to listen. Now, in today's video, I'm going to try to take a stab at some really complicated questions. Question number one, did Putin shoot himself in the foot with the Ukrainian invasion? I mean, if he had a DeLorean and he can go back in time with Doc Brown, would he have completely axed this plan? And question number two, given the fact that we're in this mess together with Vlad, basically, what would a win over Putin look like? I mean, is it overthrowing Putin? Is it some sort of other solution? What is this win we're looking for? How would it look like? Okay, so if you stay with me, grab some coffee, grab a beer, and let's do this. So when Putin started this, he had 4 goals. One was to replace the government, kick out Zelensky, put Viktor Yanukovych. And I'm going to talk about Viktor Yanukovych in a second because he's a very interesting character. Number 2, demilitarize Ukraine, or at the very least, make them neutral, not ever join NATO. There's some water issues between Crimea and the separatists and Ukraine, and obviously, stop the tensions between Ukraine and the separatist areas of Lugansk and Donetsk and let everybody just be. Now, those are the 4 stated goals. Out of those 4, the 2 main ones obviously are, kick out Zelensky government and completely de-NATO or demilitarize Ukraine. Now, let me explain who he wants instead of Zelensky, because this is interesting before we go into the analysis. He wants Viktor Yanukovych. Now, Viktor Yanukovych is a very interesting character. Viktor Yanukovych was already ousted twice as the president of Ukraine. So he has a very long track record with these people, and not a very good one. He's definitely Putin's guy. He's very similar to Lukashenko from Belarus, former Soviet Union operator born in the 1950s, blah, blah, blah. He also, like Lukashenko, flirted with the West and the EU a little bit, but then when Uncle Vlad called and said, nada, he basically said, okay. The thing is, Lukashenko survived that, and Yanukovych got kicked out for that. I mean, his people didn't like him pulling out of the, EU talks and the West talks, and they kicked him out in 2014. And ever since, he's been hiding in Russia or Belarus trying to come back. Now, can Putin reinstate this guy? Well, it's a very difficult question because Putin is in a tough spot right now. And let me explain. The problem is that Putin doesn't have a lot of friends left. I mean, he's been pretty much canceled. I don't think he estimated the importance of cancel culture in 2022. Now, the thing is that we just saw lately that, they just voted in the UN and the UN never agrees on anything. I mean, literally, that's the whole purpose of the UN. They always argue. 141 countries basically said, hey, you're an asshole for doing this to Ukraine. The only countries that voted for him are Belarus, Eritrea, Syria, and North Korea. And maybe I forgot a few more, but I don't think so. If that's the kind of bunch that's supporting you, it's pretty much like, telling me you completely screwed up your politics game without telling me you screwed up your politics game. I mean, that's a really tough spot to be in politically. He's completely isolated. Now, the problem isn't the UN because that thing is not operative. It's just a decision that means nothing. Now, the real problem that Putin completely miscalculated the way China and Germany are going to react to this. Now, China is kind of debatable still because they're kind of on the fence about it. I get it. But I'll argue that even that is worse than he expected. Now, Germany is the real kick to the nuts. Germany was pretty much his ping pong. He basically decided to do whatever he wants to do, and he knew because they need his gas, they're going to follow through and protect him. Now, the problem is that you can only push a country around so much with ultimatums of grandma freezing in the basement so much. At some point, I mean, these are Germans. These are proud people. So they pretty much said, hey, 9, it's done. We're calling your bluff. No more. We're not playing these games. We don't fuck with what you're doing, and we're pretty much out. And if you want to shut down the gas, we dare you. Now, they basically called his bluff because he needs their money just as bad as they need his gas, but for the longest time, he acted like he's the bully in the story. Now, mainly, the thing that he didn't calculate is how much Germany is going to flip on this mother lover, because what they did, beyond just, stopping Nord Stream 2, which was a huge move, they actually said, well, we're going to arm ourselves to the teeth. The most pacifistic country in Europe in the past 80 years is basically now spending $100 billion on military, plus 2% of the GDP every year. This is amounts that we haven't seen since ever. I mean, this is Germany, for God's sakes. So Germany is arming against him, and they're going to diversify themselves out of his gas because they just seen what he tried to do. So he's losing on the Germany front in every possible way. He didn't understand how horrible of a reaction he's going to get from Germany. Now, simply put, Germany was the key to all of this story, and they came out way bigger than anybody expected. Kudos. Now, as far as the US and EU, they had a very difficult task. Isolate Putin. Do not start World War III. Very delicate. And yet they seem to have done a good job. So far, Putin seems to be completely isolated economically and politically. And even when he started talking about nuclear weaponry and raising his alerts and whatever, they didn't flinch. They called his bluff, and it was 100% accurate. Good play for them. But I'm going to be honest with you, even if this is a bluff, this is some scary shit. I mean, his nuclear threats are not actually that easy to ignore because we're talking about some world destruction shit. Now, look, the more he gets desperate, the more he gets irresponsible, the scarier this shit becomes. And I can't believe I'm having this conversation in 2022, but we can't just ignore it and sit around the campfire and, sing kumbaya. This is some serious shit. Now, as far as Putin goes, he's in a tough spot. On the one hand, he's isolated economically, politically, and his campaign in Ukraine is not going as planned. Now, he wanted to basically siege Ukraine, scare the government away, get the army, Ukrainian army that is, to put down their arms and just put his man in Yanukovych and leave. That didn't happen. His logistics are trash. His rickety army is stuck in the mud. Logistics are horrible. He's not even able to do that. The Ukrainian army is fighting back. These partisans are basically blowing his tanks to smithereens. He's stuck, and every day this war costing him a lot of money. And as the war costing him a lot of money, his bank is basically blocked and locked out of foreign currency. He has to make a decision fast. He doesn't have a lot of time because eventually he literally will run out of money. And I don't think you understand how bad things in Russia right now for the ordinary guys. I mean, it's pretty tough. I mean, there's no ATMs. The money is completely gone. The currency is basically dead. And the government is now mandating people with dollars and any type of forex to completely convert it to rubles, at least 80% of it. The stock market has been closed since the beginning of the week. I mean, the credit rating of Russia is junk right now. No money in the ATMs. The government is literally mandating people to convert to rubles if they have any forex because the national bank is literally locked out of the foreign accounts. And things are getting really bad on the ground. The question is, will it be enough to overthrow Putin? What would a win over Putin look like? Again, I'm not a military strategist. I don't understand nothing about no-fly zones and tanks and none of this stuff. I don't understand about that. I'm talking about a political win. And I mean, you don't want to push him too far. You have to remember he's sitting on the scary button with nukes. And you never know what a desperate person would do. I don't know. I don't want to take that chance. So how do you solve this? Well, you'll have to find a way to allow him a ladder to climb down from his tree. And in that case, a possible compromise would be to let the government stay as is, but have assurances 100% that Ukraine will never join NATO and will always be neutral. And also allow some independence or some sort of an autonomy for Lugansk and Donetsk. And that will allow Putin to achieve some of his goals, but not the one he really wants emotionally. Emotionally, he wants Zelensky gone. He hates that lover. But here's the problem. You can't get it all. And if they give him everything else, as far as no military, no NATO, and basically independence to Lugansk and Donetsk, it's a pretty sweet deal at him at this point because he's really stuck in the mud, literally. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. This is kind of my logic around this story. I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. If you disagree, it's fine as well. See you tomorrow.